Hello everybody, I'm Nick, and in this video I'm going to show you how you can supercharge your MediatR implementation by using MediatR Pipeline Behaviors. Pipeline Behaviors are by far one of the best features that MediatR has to offer, and it's for me what really makes it worth using. It allows you to implement things like cross-cutting concerns without having to put those concerns into your handlers themselves. And it's a very nice and clear separation between what would go into your middlewares or filters in ASP.NET Core and what would go into your application layer. And the great thing about this is you do not need ASP.NET Core to implement it. Anywhere that MediatR can live, like desktop applications, console applications, mobile apps, anything can use this. If you like that type of content and you want to see more, make sure you subscribe and ring the notification bell. And for more training, check out nickchapsas.com. So let me show you what I have here. I have this movies API that we introduced MediatR in the previous video, and every concern that we have, every feature of the API, it's a separate command or query, whether it mutates data or not, and then it has a handler. And in some cases, we return a result, which can be either the happy path, for example, we create the movie, or the unhappy path, validation failed. Now, very quickly, I'm going to show you how this API looks. So we're going to run this API, go to Postman, and go to create the classic movie, Nick the Greek. So Nick the Greek is created. I can get that movie using a specific ID, or I can use this URL-friendly slug. So both of them will return it. If it's invalid, we're going to get a 404. We can list all movies, update movies, or delete movies. And that's the whole concept. Now, we added MediatR, and we're coming from a traditional service approach. And as we migrated, it was questionable whether having MediatR here was actually worth it. But in my opinion, here's where you're going to understand why it was really worth it. And I'm going to show that by creating my first behavior. So what is a pipeline behavior? Well, as the name implies, because MediatR really works in a pipeline where you can have things happening before and after your handler, you can implement things like login or metrics collection, or even validation, which we're going to see in a future video, using those behaviors. Let's look at the code. What I'm going to do is create a create movie behavior. So this is a behavior dedicated to the process of creating a movie, this specific handler. So I'm going to create that, and I'm going to have it implement the iPipeline behavior interface. Now, what I need here is the type of request I'm handling. So create movie command goes here, and then the response type, in this case, result, copy that, and it goes here. This will make my pipeline behavior specific to handling that request and that response. So I'm going to say implement missing members. And if you're familiar with ASP.NET Core pipelines, this might actually look familiar, especially this next parameter. We have a request handler delegate, which allows us to pass the request to the next thing in the pipeline. Now we build the pipeline saying, first do this, maybe then do this, and eventually send this to the handler. So if I say return next and I invoke it and I put a breakpoint here and a breakpoint in create movie, and then I go to the program.cs and I register my pipeline behavior by saying .add behavior and specify the interface, so that thing over here, and then the implementation name, so that thing over here, and I add all of that. Now what's going to happen when I run my API is request will come in, and first it's going to encounter that behavior and try to do something there. Now, what's great about this is that you can actually do things before we send the request to the next behavior or the handler, and after, by not returning here, just awaiting and doing something afterwards. But as you can see, first comes into the behavior, then it passes it into the handler, then something happens, and then we return back into the behavior. So I'm going to just stop this, go to the behavior, and turn this into an async task, which will allow me to have the await bit here. Now, why is this great? Well, it's great because if I want to add logging that collects how long this took to execute, you wouldn't really do that in the handler itself. If you have to do it in every single handler and say, oh yeah, using stopwatch or whatever to calculate how long it took, it's going to be very, very tedious. Instead, what I'm going to do is I'm going to inject an iLogger here. So iLogger of that behavior, and dependency injection just fully works here. And then I'm going to use a stopwatch. So I'm going to say start, and I'm going to say stopwatch.get timestamp. And then afterwards, I'm going to get the execution delta. So I'm going to say stopwatch.get get elapsed time from that starting point. And now I can say logread.log information, and I can say create movie command because that's a request we handle. And then we can have the status, so either succeeded or failed in an amount of milliseconds. So I'm going to say elapsed milliseconds. And I can get the status by actually getting the response type. I can say result here, and I have full access to that result type. So did it succeed? Result dot is success, then succeeded. Otherwise failed. And to get the time, it is just the delta dot millisecond. And that is it. Then all I need to do is just return the result. And if I do that now, same thing as before, I'm gonna go ahead and create a movie that doesn't exist. So Nick the Greek 2. So that is now created. And if I try to create something that already exists, that should have failed. So in the console, as you can see, the first thing was created and succeeded in 73 milliseconds, and it failed in 15. If I try to do any other action, like get all the movies, I'm not gonna see anything because nothing matches the parameters I have in my behavior other than this specific handler, the create movie type and the response movie type, which makes you wonder, well, isn't that stupid? Because if you have something as generic as logging, surely you want it to be applied to anything, and you would be right. And actually Mediator has a way to handle this. So what I'm going to do is just comment it out and say public class logging behavior. So now we have this generic cross-cutting concern name. But here's where this gets interesting, because you might say, okay, I need generics now. I need a request and a response. What do I do? Well, you say the request and the response. And of course, you're going to have to pass them down to the original declaration as well. But the moment you do that now, you can actually just implement missing members, and this works. Now, how does it work? Let me just first turn this into a not null, because the request needs to be not nullable. But the moment I have that now, I can go here in my add pipeline behavior. And of course, this won't work, but I don't care. I'm going to just, in fact, I'm going to just comment it out and say add open behavior. And I can have an open generic now using the type of logging behavior and just a comma in the middle. And this now will get a behavior and apply it basically in every single handler. So now what I can do, go back to this one and just quickly rename the class as well to login behavior. I can do the same thing where I have an await next over here, turn this into async. I'm going to have the response, and I'm going to return the response, and I can do things before and after. So I'm going to just stick a breakpoint here, run this, and let's see how that looks. So API now is running. I'm going to try to get all movies again. And now, as you can see, we are getting in here because we are grabbing everything. We have this open generic, and I can go get a specific movie. So 2022, this comes in here as well. Anything will come here, allowing you to implement these cross-cutting concerns of logging, metrics, auditing. Anything can go here. So what I have here is I'm just going to copy what I have up there and just paste it here. Now, I'm no longer going to have this is success, is failure. If you really need it, you'd have to pattern match. But for now, I'm just going to remove it and just treat everything as a success. In fact, I will add failure as well in the mix, but in a different way. So let's say that here and just say succeeded by default. And then I'm going to get the request name as well, which is type of that t request dot name. Here we go. So I can actually handle this here. Request name goes here and just going to pass it down. And now with that, I have the same experience as before, where I can just run this. And if I create Nick the Greek 4, which goes backwards, then a movie was created. If I try to get all, then movies were retrieved. If I try to get a specific one, the specific one is retrieved. And you can see everything just working here. Now, something I should point out is that if you don't know how the following handlers are implemented and you don't have something to explicitly handle exceptions, you probably want to have in scenarios like this a try finally block or a try catch block to catch things that failed and log appropriately, so you don't fail in a way that you don't actually finish the login process. But I'm going to leave that up to you. You can do whatever you want with this. So that's how easy it is to now extract cross-cutting concerns, move them into their own behavior in the pipeline, and then just build a pipeline that makes sense for your workflow with your logging, maybe some metrics, maybe some time, maybe some anything you want. And it actually does not stop here. Subscribe, because we're going to see how we can use something else in Mediator to make our handlers even cleaner. But now I want to know from you, are you using MediatR behaviors and how are you using them? What are you trying to implement with them? Leave a comment down below. Well, that's all I had for you for this video. Thank you very much for watching. Special thanks to my Patreons for making this possible. If you want to support me as well, you're going to find the link in the description down below. Leave a like if you like this video, subscribe if you want to like this and ring the bell as well, and I'll see you in the next video. Keep coding.